So after nearly a week of deliberations, a jury and a handful of alternates have now been selected in Donald Trump's hush money trial. During proceedings on Friday, a man set himself on fire outside the courthouse. The authorities say he is a conspiracy theorist and don't believe that his actions were related to the former president. Opening statements in Trump's criminal trial could begin on Monday. DD India's William Denslow reports from New York.
During legal proceedings on Friday, the key issue that needed to be resolved was finding the 6 alternates to go along with the 12 members of the jury that were sworn in on Thursday. That has now been achieved, which means that, according to Judge Juan Machan, we could see opening statements in Donald Trump's criminal hush money case, his trial, to begin as early as Monday. Those opening statements will provide the first opportunity for the defense and the prosecution to try and convince the jury of Donald Trump's innocence or his guilt. For the prosecution, they'll be seeking to successfully accuse Donald Trump of paying hush money to the porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 elections. For the defense, they will seek to argue that the $130,000 that Donald Trump paid to his fixer at the time, Michael Cohen, was a legitimate business, a legal expense. Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records. Also to be established is Judge Machan will make rulings on what exactly people can ask Donald Trump if indeed he chooses to take the witness stand during this trial. There's also the matter of the gag order on Donald Trump. He says that it is unconstitutional. He says it is impacting his ability to defend himself and to politically campaign as he seeks re-election.
This is really a concerted witch hunt, very simple. Everything you heard in there, this is a witch hunt by numerous judges, Democrat judges. You take a look at it, and Doran is a whack job. What he did was a disgrace. It's being reviewed by the appellate division, and I hope they do justice because everybody's looking, and no business is coming into the city.
For the prosecution, well, they argue that Donald Trump has been violating that gag order that essentially seeks to block him from attacking witnesses and during this trial. They've warned that such violations could result in Donald Trump even facing up to 30 days behind bars. Judge Juan Machan is expected to hold a hearing on that matter on Tuesday. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
The lawmakers in the US House of Representatives are due to vote on Saturday for a series of long-awaited foreign aid bills that include funding for Ukraine, Israel and the Indo-Pacific. They could provide around $95 billion of US funding to allies if passed in the House and then Senate. DD India's Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
It's taken months to get here, but congressional lawmakers are on the verge of making progress on approving foreign aid packages after much debate and controversy. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson got through a procedural vote formally on Friday, which opens up the aid bills for debate before voting to pass them. That's even though 55 members of the Republican Party, his own party, voted against it, including members of the far-right House Freedom Caucus, who have said they may also move to oust him from the Speaker role in protest of the bills. Well, Johnson was only able to get to the next stage with the support of the Democrats, who, in a highly unusual bipartisan move, actually gave 165 of their votes to the cause. Well, these bills come in 4 parts: $60 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific, that's largely to support Taiwan, and a wider national security bill that includes moves against Russia and China, such as on fentanyl, and insisting that Beijing divests its ownership of the social platform TikTok. Well, if the bills pass in the House, they're due to be voted on Saturday, they could then move on to the higher chamber as one complete bill. Senators are supposed to be in recess next week, but they could be called back to vote given the urgency of this funding. Caroline Malone in Washington, DD India.
And the White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre has said it has no comment on reports of Israeli attacks in Iran overnight. Listening.
And finally, I know there's a lot of interest in reports from the Middle East overnight. and we understand that, we get that. I'm going to say it now, though I know you all will certainly ask me about it, that we do not have any comment on the reports at this time. We have been very, very clear from here, from the beginning, that we do not want to see this conflict escalate. We continue to consult with our allies and partners, including in the region, obviously, and to reduce further risk of escalation.
And White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that the United States would send shipments of arms to Ukraine right away if a funding request to help Ukraine repel Russian invaders is approved on Friday.
We have been clear since October, since we put forth the original, obviously, National Security Supplemental, how critical it was to get that Ukraine aid to the brave people of Ukraine who have been fighting to protect their democracy, fighting for their freedom, obviously. And so we've been saying it is critical, it is critical. They have been losing ground because of Congress inaction. But we are, and I'll add this, we are very grateful to see that the House is moving, to see that it is moving in a bipartisan way. We want to get that out of the House, obviously, out of the Senate, to the desk of this president, and he will sign it right away.
Updates now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy told NATO members that Ukraine needed a minimum of 7 Patriot or other high-end air defense systems to counter Russian airstrikes on Friday, exhorting them to step up their military assistance for Kiev. Listen in.
We are telling this directly to defend. We need 7 more Patriots or similar air defense systems, and it's a minimum number. They can save many lives and really change situation. You have such systems? Please, from the beginning of this year alone, a bit more than just 3 months, Ukraine has been hit with almost 1,200 Russian rockets, including air ballistic, and also more than 1,500 Shaheeds. Part of this evil we managed to neutralize, shoot down, but only a part.
And after a special meeting of allied defense ministers with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg said NATO allies agreed to provide Kiev with additional air defense systems.
NATO defense ministers have agreed to step up and provide further military support, including more air defense. NATO has mapped out existing capabilities across the alliance, and there are systems that can be made available to Ukraine. So expect new announcements on air defense capabilities for Ukraine soon. In addition to Patriots, there are other weapons that allies can provide, including SAM-Ts. And many allies who do not have available systems have pledged to provide financial support to purchase them for Ukraine.
Now, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian has said that Iran will respond at an immediate and maximum level if Israel acts against its interest. In an interview, the Iranian Foreign Minister said if Israel wants to do another adventurism and acts against the interest of Iran, then its next response will be immediate and will be at the maximum level. His comments follow reports of an Israeli strike on Iran early Friday. An Iranian foreign minister also said that Tehran was investigating an overnight attack on Iran, adding that so far a link to Israel had not been proven, as he downplayed the strike. Iranian media and officials described a small number of explosions which they said resulted from air defenses hitting 3 drones over Isfahan in central Iran in the early hours of Friday. They referred to the incident as an attack by infiltrators rather than by Israel, obviating the need for retaliation. As the Israel-Hamas conflict continues, Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh arrived in Istanbul late Friday for talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. A statement from Hamas said Erdogan and Haniyeh would discuss the conflict in Gaza, adding that the head of the group's political bureau was accompanied by a delegation. Middle East tensions are at a high after Israel's reported attack on Iran and Gaza, bracing for a new Israeli offensive. Erdogan insisted that he would continue to defend the Palestinian struggle and to be the voice of the oppressed Palestinian people. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan was in Qatar on Wednesday and said he spent 3 hours with Haniyeh and his aides for a wide exchange of views, in particular about negotiations for a ceasefire. Protesters in Israel blocked a highway connecting Tel Aviv and Jerusalem on Friday to demand government secure a deal to release hostages who are still held captive by the Hamas terror group in Gaza. The protesters, mostly relatives of hostages, chanted "Deal now" as they set up a roadblock near Ben Shemen, causing a traffic jam on Highway 1 heading from Tel Aviv towards Jerusalem. Relatives of those taken by Hamas on October 7 have been protesting for months, demanding that the Israeli government bring back their loved ones. Now, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin held talks with the Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant and discussed efforts to maintain regional stability and latest developments in Gaza and measures to accelerate humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza. This comes a day after reports claim that Israel carried out strikes in Iran. The Pentagon readout makes no mention of the Israeli strikes, as the Biden administration has refrained from commenting on it. The United States on Friday imposed sanctions on an ally of Israel's far-right national security minister and two entities that raise money for Israeli men accused of settler violence. The latest actions aimed against those Washington blames for an escalation of violence in the West Bank. The sanctions, in addition to those already imposed on 5 settlers and 2 unauthorized outposts already this year, are the latest sign of growing U.S. frustration with the policies of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. U.S. Department of the Treasury said the sanctions, which freeze any U.S. assets held by those targeted and generally bar Americans from dealing with them, hit 2 organizations that launch fundraising campaigns to support settlers accused of violence and targeted by previous sanctions. The U.S. has imposed sanctions against 3 Chinese companies and a Belarus-based firm for supplying missile-applicable items to Pakistan's ballistic missile program. According to U.S. State Department, the entities that have been sanctioned include 3 Chinese companies as well as the Belarus-based Minsk Wheel Tractor Plant. Minsk Wheel Tractor Plant has worked to supply special vehicle chassis to Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile program. Such chassis are used as launch support equipment for ballistic missiles by Pakistan's National Development Complex, which is responsible for the development of Missile Technology Control Regime Category I ballistic missiles. All right, we'll slip into a short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Group of 7 foreign ministers wrap up talks in Italy, pledge swift aid for Ukraine, urge de-escalation in Middle East. 6 couples sued the Japanese government over a law forcing them to adopt a single surname after marriage. And Rio de Janeiro's iconic Christ the Redeemer statue on Friday lit up green to mark Indigenous Peoples Day in Brazil for the first time.
We are taking a close look at the phenomenon of the global threat posed by the authoritarian state of China.
And many times I hear my colleagues saying that, oh, China is too far from Europe, it's not our problem, we have war in Ukraine, therefore Russia is our biggest problem. And I was like, no, for Chinese, they have this mentality of supremacy. And for other continents, for other people, they will only use what is being given to them. They don't need to try hard. They can go and just buy what they want. They can invest in whatever they want.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. The G7 foreign ministers warned Iran that it could face further sanctions if it does anything to destabilize the Middle East. At the end of a 3-day meeting on the Italian island of Capri, The G7 also pledged to help Ukraine with its air defences. DD India's Giles Gibson sent this report.
Last-minute change to the agenda of the final day of talks here on the island of Capri when reports started coming in of an apparent Israeli missile strike on central Iran. By the end of the talks, we had a joint statement from the G7 foreign ministers in which they warned Iran that further sanctions would be placed on their economy if they were responsible for any more destabilizing actions within the Middle East.
First, the G7 condemned the unprecedented Iranian attack on Israel, unprecedented in scope and scale. Scope because it was a direct attack on Israel from Iran, scale because it involved more than 300 munitions, including ballistic missiles. We're committed to Israel's security. We're also committed to de-escalating.
I immediately wanted there to be a clear message from the entire G7. The political objective of the G7 is called de-escalation. We have been working, we are working, and we will continue to work to be active players for de-escalation in the whole Middle East area.
Of course, on Thursday, even before these talks wrapped up, we also saw the US and the UK moving forward with a fresh round of combined sanctions on Iran. In that final statement, we also had the G7 calling for a sustainable ceasefire in Gaza, for Hamas to release hostages that have already been held, of course, for many months, and for, quotes, concrete steps to be taken by the Israeli government to allow more aid to flow into Gaza. Meanwhile, this week we've also had the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba taking part in the G7 talks, in particular urging his allies to provide his country with more air defense systems. And the G7 have now pledged to help Ukraine to bolster their air defense capabilities. However, at the end of these talks, we did not have any sign of an agreement about how to potentially leverage $300 billion of frozen Russian assets in the West to help Ukraine with their war effort. We did, in the final statement from the G7 foreign ministers, though, have a commitment. They are saying that they are going to aim to have an agreement, a deal around how to use those $300 billion of frozen Russian assets by the time we get to the G7 Leaders Summit, which is coming up in June in southern Italy. Giles Gibson on the island of Capri, reporting for DD India.
And the United States has said it expects to finalize trade exemptions for the AUKUS defense project with Australia and Britain in the next 120 days, signalling a further delay but offering the prospect of a positive outcome in the project to counter China. AUKUS, formed in 2021 to address shared worries about China's growing power, would involve Australia acquiring nuclear-powered attack submarines, among other items of defense cooperation. But the sharing of closely guarded technology is governed by strict US international trafficking in arms regulations. The 2024 National Defense Authorization Act requires President Joe Biden to determine within 120 days of his signing it into law on December 22nd whether Australia and Britain have export control regimes comparable to the United States and thereby qualify for the exemptions to the ITAR regulations. 120 days is reached on Saturday, although the State Department statement indicated a delay in a positive determination by Biden. The legislation requires him to revisit the issue in another 120 days. Now, North Korea conducted a cruise missile warhead test and test launch of its new anti-aircraft missile in the West Sea of Korea on Friday. North Korea had conducted a power test of a super large warhead new type anti-aircraft missile. North Korea's strategic cruise missile is believed to be designed to carry a nuclear warhead. South Korea, Japan and the United States, which often report large missile tests they detect from North Korea, made no mention of a flight. Now, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said the European Union's top officials must be replaced as they do not deserve another chance after the impending European Parliament elections on Friday.
There is a trouble in Brussels, big trouble. The leadership failed. The economy of Europe is decaying. The green switch this way is a catastrophe. The Ukrainian grains are destroying the European farmers. The migrants are flooding across the borders. Crime is increasing. There is more and more violence. They want to re-educate the children and hand them into the hands of gender activists. The Brussels leadership must go. They do not deserve another chance. There must be a change in Brussels.
Now in Ecuador, President Daniel Noboa declared a second state of emergency on Friday over an energy crisis that has already led to rationing in the South American country. Noboa had declared an energy emergency and instituted power cuts earlier this week, but the cuts will be suspended on Sunday for a referendum. He looks set to win on a raft of security measures. His first emergency declaration in January sought to tame surging crime by allowing more coordination between the military and police. In Saturday's 60-day state of emergency, Noboa deployed the military and police to guard energy infrastructure. The latest state of emergency is meant to guarantee the continuity of the public service of electricity. Now, Togo lawmakers on Friday gave final approval to a constitutional reform that switches to a parliamentary system. Under the new constitution, Togo adopts a parliamentary system, leaving lawmakers to elect the president, which would become a largely ceremonial role with a 4-year term. The approval came days before April 29 legislative elections in Togo. The opposition dismissed the reform as a constitutional coup for creating a new prime minister-style post they say will allow the Togolese leader to avoid term limits to stay in office. The current constitution would only allow the Togolese leader to run for one last term in 2025. Now, Solomon Islands Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare has retained his parliamentary seat. Results showed on Saturday, but it will be days before vote counting determines whether our party can form the next government. Wednesday's national election was the first since Sogavare struck a security pact with China in 2022, drawing the Pacific Islands nation closer to Beijing. The move concerned the US and Australia because of the potential impact on regional security. Full results for the 50-member parliament expected to be known next week will indicate whether any party has achieved a majority or whether negotiations to form a coalition are needed to select the prime minister. After intense internal negotiations to determine who could take on President Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela's major opposition coalition said that it will back Edmundo Gonzalez as its unity presidential candidate for July's election. Gonzalez is a former ambassador who is already registered to compete in the contest. His name was put forward as a placeholder after both the winner of the opposition primary and her alternate were both unable to register. The decision to keep Gonzalez comes just a day before a substitution deadline. The campaign has already been marked by arrest and bans on candidates, with critics alleging that Maduro's ruling party has prevented a free and fair election. Now, the Nigerian government has warned that schools in 15 of the country's 36 states are at a risk of attacks by gunmen, locally called bandits. The disclosure follows a resurgence of attacks on schools and kidnapping of students and teachers for ransom. Security analysts are warning that the situation could affect pupil enrollment numbers and are demanding better protection for the schools. DD India's Tessa Makende reports from Jos in northern Nigeria.
Shola Oyenekon is preparing his students for their final year examinations. A teacher at this school in Jos, he lives in fear of attacks.
We come to school with so much apprehension, getting scared, when you go to class and all that. We are being careful of who coming into the school, who goes out of the school at what particular point in time. And the school security cannot do so much. The local security guys are nothing close to the bandits coming around. So they are nothing, most of them are not well armed, they are not trained enough and all that. They are also scared of their lives too.
Schools in Nigeria have become targets by gunmen who attack and kidnap students and teachers for ransom. Last month, Gunmen abducted 15 students from an Islamic school in the northern state of Sokoto. That occurred less than 3 days after 287 students and teachers were kidnapped from a school in the Kuriga community in Kaduna State.
It is a booming business. It is commercially inclined for two major reasons. One, they do not get the appropriate physical response from the security agencies, and then they have been able to get some governments of some states to patronize them in terms of payment of ransom.
According to the United Nations, about 20 million children of school age in Nigeria aren't attending classes. The UN says more than 1,680 children have been abducted from schools in the last 10 years, along with around 60 teachers. In that same period, 180 children and 14 teachers were killed in attacks on schools. Security experts say latest warnings about possible attacks call for swift action by the government.
Now, 6 couples are suing the Japanese government over a law forcing them to adopt a single surname after marriage. The case argues the century-old custom disproportionately affects women who are more likely to give up their surnames in favor of the husbands. DD India's Chris Gilbert reports.
Nizu-san and Kurokawa-san have been together for 30 years, but they've chosen not to get married because they want to keep their own surnames, which aren't actually Nizu or Kurokawa. Those are pseudonyms to protect them from blowback as they sue the state.
I feel this is something we should not pass on to the next generation. There are so many people suffering. That's why we took on this lawsuit.
They've been in a de facto marriage for 18 years, but are missing out on the legal protections of a married couple.
It's hard for non-married couples to get a joint home loan. We're ineligible for many tax deductions married couples enjoy. Also, if one of us becomes ill, the other may not have the power to make medical decisions.
The law does not dictate who must give up their family name upon marriage, but government data shows it's usually women. In 2019, 95% of newlyweds adopted the husband's surname for their new family. Critics argue this can impact their career, as many attempt to continue working using their pre-marriage surname.
Going through the courts has been tried before. Lawsuits in 2017 and 2021 also pushed for married couples to keep their own surnames, and they were both dismissed, with the courts ruling it was an issue for Parliament.
But experts believe this time might be different.
Though they've lost many times before, the argument that the political route isn't working has become quite strong, and public opinion is on the side of change. Many legal experts see a chance of success.
Kurokawa-san is frustrated with lawmakers.
The politics on this isn't moving. There's no option for us but to knock on the doors of the judiciary again and again.
The case has extra momentum with big business on side. The country's biggest lobbies say the law should have been changed years ago. A court date for the first hearing is yet to be set. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo reporting for DD India.
Rio de Janeiro's iconic Christ the Redeemer statue on Friday lit up green to mark Indigenous Peoples Day in Brazil for the first time. A dozen members of indigenous groups from across the country gathered at the feet of the statue to commemorate the occasion. All right, still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Campaigning underway for the second phase of Lok Sabha elections. Political parties gearing up to woo voters in their favour. Embrace Kerala's cultural religious spectacle. Thrissur Puram celebrated in the vibrant city of Thrissur. And Shimla braces for inclement weather, heavy rain and thunderstorms expected across this state.
Is left-wing extremism close to its endgame now? And are Naxalites breathing their last breath?
It was a combined effort of so many militant, so many Naxalite guerrilla groups who tried to disrupt our election process.
We are used to listening this kind of thing from people who are part of the urban network, but when it comes from very responsible people, it's very heart-wrenching for sure for all the men in uniform. I mean, it's reprehensible actually.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. Jury selection completes in Trump hush money trial. 12 jurors and 6 alternates will consider evidence in the first ever trial to begin next week. US House to vote on Saturday on a legislative package providing aid to Ukraine, Israel and the Indo-Pacific. Iran says it will respond at maximum level if Israel acts against its interest. Plays down reported Israeli attacks, signals no retaliation. North Korea conducts cruise missile warhead test and test launch of its new anti-aircraft missile in West Sea. Now, Indian ambassador to Austria, Shambhu Kumaran, joined the International Atomic Energy Agency on Friday. Director General of the IAEA, Rafael Mariano Grossi, welcomed him and stressed that India is a key partner in all their initiatives. Grossi further emphasized that India and the IAEA aim to strengthen collaboration and maximize the potential of IAEA initiatives. The International Atomic Energy Agency is the key agency to promote cooperation in the field of peaceful uses of nuclear energy, an initiative of President Eisenhower enunciated in his famous Atoms for Peace speech. India has played an active role in the IAEA since its inception. Now let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic elections in India. Alright, the first phase of voting for Lok Sabha elections were held in 21 states and union territories on April 19th. Nearly 62% voter turnout was recorded across the state. Polling took place in 102 constituencies across 21 states and union territories in the first of the 7-phase elections. The Commission described the turnout as high, noting that voting remained largely peaceful. And campaigning underway for the second phase of Lok Sabha elections, political parties are gearing up to woo voters in their favour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Maharashtra and Bengaluru on Saturday, where he will be addressing multiple rallies. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah to hold public gatherings in Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. Alright, DD India's correspondents are joining us. We have Aisha Khanam joining us from Bengaluru, and we are also joined by Yogesh Sheetal. He is joining us from Parbhani, Maharashtra. First, Aisha, I'll come to you. PM Modi's poll campaign blitz in full swing, and he will address 2 public meetings in Bengaluru and Chikkabalapura. Fill us in with more details about Bengaluru rally.
Well, Abhishek, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a rally at the Bangalore's Palace Ground. This will be around 5 p.m. today. And before that, he will address another rally at Chikbalapur, which is the neighboring constituency of Bangalore district, which is just 100 kilometers away from Bangalore. But what is important is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Bangalore, because Bangalore has been BJP's bastion. And though Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be making his address in the Bangalore North at the Palace Ground, this will have a major impact in the other constituencies in Bangalore, that is the Bangalore Central and Bangalore South as well. And as I said, the BJP has always been successful in capturing all the 3 seats of the Lok Sabha seats in Bangalore from over 3 consecutive terms. So the BJP hopes to repeat the performance, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the people here in Bangalore. And on the other hand, Chikbalapur is also important for BJP as well, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a rally at Chikbalapur in support of the candidate Dr. Sudhakar, and this is where he is pitted against the Congress candidate Raksha Ramaiah. Chief Minister of Karnataka Siddaramaiah is campaigning hard in these regions. Now, wherever Prime Minister Narendra Modi campaigns, the Chief Minister of Karnataka campaigns there a day ahead. So this is the kind of the fight we see here in Karnataka, because Karnataka has over 25 seats held by BJP in the 2019 elections. This is out of 28 seats I'm talking about. So BJP seems to rule the roost in Karnataka when it comes to Lok Sabha elections, though there is a Congress government in the state. So the Congress is trying hard to wrest some of the seats from the BJP, and the BJP has entered into alliance with JDS as well, and the BJP is working hard on ground, raising issues like failure of law and order in the state, and also other issues, especially when it comes to Bangalore. The city which was once known as the IT Silicon Valley of India, IT City of India, is now being termed as the, instead of brand Bangalore, is now being seen as bomb Bangalore. This is what the BJP is raising the pitch in the poll campaign. So this will be one major issue.
Right, Aisha, also, this is the fourth visit by the Prime Minister to Karnataka, if I'm not wrong, this election season, including the one to Kalburgi on the day the poll schedules were announced. Aisha, you can have a glass of water. I was talking about the BJP in a sense that it underscores the significance of Karnataka in the political landscape and signals the government's commitment to the state's development and welfare. We'll come back to Aisha, but Yogesh, if you are there with us. Yogesh, PM Modi in Maharashtra for election campaigning, he'll address a public meeting at Parbhani, and campaigning in full swing, and also huge number of people, we can see behind you, huge number of people there, and Prime Minister will be there to address a rally.
Right, the scorching heat here in Marathwada, especially in political temperament, is also very high in Marathwada region particularly, because we know that the aspiration of the BJP, that the BJP is just aiming at achieve 400 seats. Then Vidarbha is one of the very important regions when to achieve those targets, and that's the reason why PM is going to address two mega rallies in Parbhani, first in Nanded and then in Parbhani. So there are multiple issues also there in Marathwada, talking comprehensively about entire Marathwada region. There are multiple issues, mainly infrastructure as well as the social justice issue. Okay. Infrastructure issues have been, there are multiple projects that have been long pending in Marathwada region, especially the connectivity. Recently we had seen the PM also launched two, broad gauge railway project in Wardha, basically Wardha and Nanded and Yavatmal. These three points were connected. Apart from that, many other infrastructure projects like Samriddhi Mahamarg, where recently seen Balasaheb Thackeray, Samriddhi Mahamarg, and also other projects were launched. Coming to social justice issue, there are two important issues. First is Maratha reservation. Recently we had seen a couple of months back how the agitations were intensified and how there are multiple political statements and political lobbying we had also seen. It was also alleged that many people believe that NCP was the driving force behind the entire Maratha agitation. On the other hand, also there is another reservation issue, that is Dhangar community, because where I am standing is Parbhani. Parbhani, the Mahadev Jankar belongs to Dhangar community. See, a very minute difference. It is Dhangar and Dhadgar. If you just change alphabetically R and D, there are two communities. First belongs to OBC and the other is ST. OBC has been demanding to be listed in the ST, but the plea was dismissed by the Bombay High Court. Recently it was dismissed by the Supreme Court. Now this will definitely be a part of the entire election campaign. So that is why social justice as well as the entire other infrastructure projects that are to development, basically two major issues in Marathwada. Apart from these issues, there are agrarian issues in Marathwada. We know that entire Kapas farmer and farmer suicide, farmer protest, loan deficit issues, loan issues and interest rate issues. There are water crisis. Multiple issues are also there. Now coming to entire, the bigger political landscape, See, the BJP as well as the Shiv Sena, this is the first time Shiv Sena will be contesting this election in a splitted mode. So the Marathwada earlier it was a bastion for Congress party. Later Bala Saheb Thackeray got a huge support from Marathwada region, and since the Shiv Sena has been splitted in this particular region, will be big impact. This region will see a big impact, and the sympathetic vote which is likely to be attracted through Shiv Sena UBT, that is Uddhav Bala Saheb Thackeray. So the entire efforts of the BJP as well as the entire Mahayuti would be to counter that sympathy vote. So that is the reason we can expect the PM to make or to touch those issues also. So at around 12 PM, the PM is expected to address the rally in Parbhani. You can see, I would request my camera person to show you a glimpse of the people. You can see the ladies, the women, basically the local villagers, apart from the people who are coming from the adjoining areas. They all have already assembled here, and they are waiting for the Prime Minister to address them at this point in time. Yeah, Abhishek.
Right, Yogesh, like you said, the political landscape has in fact changed in Maharashtra, and why Maharashtra is important for BJP, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a rally shortly at around 12 PM. We'll leave it there, but we'll keep taking updates from you, Yogesh. Moving on to our next story now. In order to garner support in the favor of their respective parties, all political parties holding rallies, roadshows to woo the voters. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi to hold rallies in Bihar's Bhagalpur and Uttar Pradesh's Amroha. Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi is likely to be attending election campaigns and programs in Kerala. Also, Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann likely to launch party's campaign for the Lok Sabha elections and visit each Lok Sabha constituency for the next 3 days. And scrutiny of nominations for Phase 3 general elections will be held on Saturday. The third phase of voting will be held on May 7, and this phase will encompass 94 constituencies spread across 12 states and union territories: Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Goa, Gujarat, Jammu and Kashmir, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal go to polls in Phase 3. Now let's take a look at other stories making news today. 4 dead and 4 others went missing when a boat ferrying over 50 people capsized in Mahanadi River in Odisha. Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik expressed concern over the incident and announced an ex gratia of Rs 4 lakh to the next of kin of the deceased. As the heatwave conditions grip India, Odisha has been reeling under intense heatwave conditions over the last few days. The India Met Department has predicted hot, humid and uncomfortable weather conditions in isolated places over the districts of coastal Andhra Pradesh and Rayalaseema till April 23rd. Many parts of the state continue to reel under a scorching sun as dry southwesterly winds sink Andhra Pradesh with rise in mercury levels. The India Met Department has issued a weather warning for Himachal Pradesh, forecasting adverse weather conditions for the next 6 days due to the activity of western disturbance. Heavy rain, thunderstorms and even light snowfall are expected to impact various parts of the state, with Shimla particularly vulnerable to inclement weather. However, on April 24th, light rain and snowfall are expected in some high altitude areas. Thrissur Puram, celebrated in the vibrant city of Thrissur, is the spectacle of cultural richness and religious devotion. The festival is known for its traditional Keralite cuisine, while attire and a series of rituals that start with the Vilambaram signalling the beginning of the celebrations. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Yuki Bhamri, Albano Olivetti reach men's doubles final in Munich Open. In IPL, Lucknow Super Giants register an 8-wicket win over Chennai Super Kings. We'll tell you more about the game. And Romanian circus artists perform at Bucharest Airport.
Traditional knowledge can often help us gain new prospects for the future. Speaking of traditions, what did you have for lunch today?
We thought that through Sputnik Farms, we can try to create more resilient and more sustainable kind of food system.
We wanted to recover the art of weaving we knew as children. We founded the Nurupu Collective, which aims to improve the situation of weavers here.
By working with this parametric modeling, we can change the city and visualize it in several different ways. So that's a very strong mechanism in the digital twin, just working with parametric visualization.
In the IPCC, we have a range of different climate modelling scenarios, ranging from low emission scenarios to really high emission scenarios, and kind of everything in between.
Welcome back. You're watching DD News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Business updates now. In US, the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 ended lower on Friday as Netflix shares weighed, but American Express kept the Dow afloat after quarterly earnings from both companies, while growing pessimism that the Federal Reserve would cut interest rates soon also dented sentiments. Netflix slumped as one of the bigger drags on the benchmark S&P index, and Nasdaq after the video streaming company's second quarter revenue view fell short of analysts' expectations, while the company also unexpectedly said it would no longer provide subscriber counts. But the price-weighted Dow Industrials rose thanks in part to a climb in American Express after the payments company reported first quarter profit that was above expectations. Now, Tesla is recalling over 3,800 Cybertruck vehicles because of a defect that can cause unintentional vehicle acceleration, increasing crash risk. The issue is with the accelerator pedal, which might get stuck on the Cybertruck, Elon Musk version of the American pickup truck. Tesla is in a notice to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said if the accelerator pedal becomes trapped, the performance and operation of the pedal will be affected, which may increase the risk of a collision. Tesla stated that it had no knowledge of any accidents or injuries linked to the problem. The company plans to fix the issue by either replacing or adjusting the accelerator. Alphabet Inc.'s Google has said it will roll back requirements that US suppliers and staffing firms pay their employees at least $15 an hour and provide health insurance and other benefits, a move that could allow the tech giant to avoid bargaining with unions. Google said the elimination of the 2019 policy, along with other steps such as limiting access by temporary workers and vendors to internal systems, are designed to comply with shifting US and global labor regulations related to contingent workers, a spokesperson for the Mountain View. The announcement comes after the US National Labor Relations Board in January ruled that Google was a so-called joint employer of workers provided by staffing firm Cognizant Technology Solutions and must bargain with the union. Google is appealing that decision. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with tennis. India's Yuki Bhamri and his French partner Albano Olivetti have confirmed their place in the men's doubles final of Munich Open on Friday. The Indo-French pair entered the final by defeating the Austrian pair of Lucas Meidler and Alexander Erler by a margin of 6-1, 6-7, 10-7. The victory will further strengthen Yuki's chance of qualifying for the Paris Olympics in doubles. Bhamri and Olivetti have been in fine form of late. Earlier in the first round, they defeated Sander Gilles and Joran Ligon, who are the finalists of French Open and champions of the Monte Carlo Masters. ATP 250 Munich Open finals will take place on Sunday. Cricket now. IPL. Lucknow Super Giants registered an 8-wicket victory over Chennai Super Kings on Friday in the ongoing season of Indian Premier League. Lucknow Super Giants skipper KL Rahul opted to bowl first against Chennai Super Kings. A measured half-century from Ravindra Jadeja and a late cameo by MS Dhoni propelled Chennai Super Kings to 176 for 6 in 20 overs. LSG skipper KL Rahul led from the front as he produced a scintillating 82-run knock and was ably supported by opener partner Quinton de Kock, who added 54 runs. The host chased down the target of 177 with 6 balls to spare. And talking about today's game, Delhi Capitals will take on Sunrisers Hyderabad in the 35th match of Indian Premier League at Arun Jaitley Stadium in Delhi. Capitals have had a mixed season so far, but a couple of impressive wins against Lucknow Super Giants and Gujarat Titans have put them back in the mix with 3 wins and 4 defeats in 7 outings so far. Meanwhile, Sunrisers Hyderabad have set a different template altogether with two of the highest ever totals of 277 and 287, which will require a lot of heart and skill to counter. Captain Rishabh Pant will have to use his resources with extreme caution and guile on a Kotla track, which for a change will have a good bounce and carry. Well, football now, tennis 50th. Stefanos Tsitsipas will face Dusan Lajovic in the Barcelona Open 2024 semi-finals today. Earlier on Friday, Tsitsipas swatted aside an upset attempt and recorded a 4-6, 6-3, 7-6 victory over Argentina's Facundo Diaz to reach the semi-finals. Meanwhile, third seed Casper Ruud of Norway will face 13th seed Thomas Martin of Argentina in these semis on Saturday. Ruud beat Italian Matteo Arnaldi 6-4, 6-3, while Etcheverry defeated 12th seed Brit Cameron Norrie 7-6, 7-6. Now the Olympic flame arrived at Greece's most famous landmark, the Acropolis, on Friday as part of the 11-day relay across Greece ahead of the Paris 2024 Games. Former European 400 meters hurdles champion Perisles Lakovakis lit a cauldron in front of the Parthenon temple from his torch. The torch for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games was lit in ancient Olympia in a traditional ceremony on April 16. It will be officially handed over to Paris Games organizers in Athens Stadium on April 26. The French torch relay will last 68 days and will end in Paris with the lighting of the Olympic flame on July 26th. Meanwhile, ahead of the upcoming Paris Games, IOC President Thomas Bach on Friday said he is confident that the French authorities will deliver a safe Olympic Games. However, he said there will be issues over their use of artificial intelligence for security purposes. Bach also said AI would revolutionize sport, but not so much that he could be replaced by it as president of the organization. Meanwhile, Wednesday marked 100 days to go until the 2024 Paris Olympics begin, with preparations for the Games entering the final stage. The Games will begin from July 26th.
Security is the authority of the authorities in the host country, and there, we don't have the skills and the means there to make a judgment on what are the best tools to apply to secure the Games. What we have seen from the French government and from the authorities is that the efforts to ensure security in Paris are really on a very wide scope, are very professional. So we have all confidence in the French authorities to have safe and secure and then enjoyable Games.
Now, circus artists from Bucharest carried out a surprise performance at the Romanian capital's airport on Friday, featuring dancing shows and acrobatics. The performance was held to honor World Circus Day, which falls on Saturday. Over 80 artists from the Bucharest Metropolitan Circus performed in the arrivals terminal, to the amazement of children and their parents. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.